Hey, it's Phoenix, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Also, I welcome you back to my Philosopher series. Today, I plan on talking about Aristotle, and specifically his ethics. I'm very excited to do this, and so without further ado, let's dive right in. Now, there is a very famous concept that Aristotle developed, and it's called Eudaimonea, and this means happiness, flourishing, and is very similar to notions of cultivation as an example. And so when a lot of people think of happiness, they think of a cessation of suffering. But the concept of Eudaimonea is a little bit more specific, especially as regards things that flourish and people who flourish. And so Aristotle's ethics often focuses on notions of cultivation, as well as practice, as well as a lot of different things related to making something better, to improvement. And I think that this is a very important and interesting idea to consider. Often when we think of happiness, as I said, we have a very specific notion of possibly American happiness, where we assume that fulfilling a need or desire is how we find happiness. But for Aristotle, it's a much more positive kind of thing. It seems as though he wants to say that we live happy by being good, by cultivating good, by focusing on those kinds of things, and that definitely makes a lot of sense, thinking about it in general. So when I think of flourishing, whether thinking about it in the context of Aristotelian ethics or thinking about it in general, I think of similar ideas of cultivation. I think of things becoming better, of humanity at its peak, of human beings at their peak and doing the best things that they can. And I really like these ideas. Some of these notions are taken from Aristotle's book, the Nicomachean Ethics, which is a complicated book in and of itself, but pioneered how we think about ethics in life and in philosophy in very powerful ways. And so a lot of it for Aristotle is really about making things possible. By focusing so much on the good that humans can accomplish, we are able to focus on the good that we are able to do ourselves, that we are able to bring into existence and create. And so virtue is not just something that we do, but it's something that we continually work at. And I think that all of this is very helpful when thinking about ethics, because it's not just a matter of making the right decision. It's when thinking about virtue, thinking about the best, most positive things that we can, we're making a conscious effort to improve ourselves and to do better than we did the day before. And I find all of that to be a very beautiful idea, and it makes sense that such ideas can lead to something like happiness. And so our goal is, in Aristotelian ethics, is to cultivate virtue and to practice these things. And indeed, virtue, human good, these are things that we can continue to bring into existence. We can continue to work at them, and we can continue to make them a better thing for us and for our lives. It seems as though Aristotle continued the lineage of Socrates and Plato in terms of thinking about ethics, although a distinction that could be made is that Plato focused less on ethics and more on metaphysics as well as even politics. So Aristotle was really kind of introducing new concepts to Western philosophy with thinking about how do we live, what is a good life, what is the best way that we can live our lives. And such things are definitely very powerful to keep in mind. But he does follow the lineage in terms of thinking about how we want to live well, how we can improve, how we can become better people. And I find all of this to be very powerful. I think in my life, this notion of cultivation, of cultivating myself, has influenced me quite a bit. So to give you some tangible examples, I know that when I work on my self-awareness, this is very important because I'm aware of my thoughts, I'm aware of my ideas, I'm aware of the things that I say and want to say to other people and the way that I behave. And so this self-awareness is something that I've cultivated through time to be more and more aware of what I'm like, of what I'm accomplishing every day by my actions, and these various things. Another example of something you can cultivate to make yourself better, to improve, and to be healthy is exercise. So we can use the notion of cultivation as an example of this. When you exercise every day or every other day, you're constantly working towards your health, you're working towards something better. And exercise could almost be a metaphor for these notions of cultivation and what we are trying to do whenever we cultivate ourselves. And there are other examples, eating healthy or working on art and cultivating that skill, whether that's playing an instrument or writing books or poetry or even painting. And these are things that we cultivate, and it's very powerful to think that we can become better people by cultivating all of these ideas, by cultivating these things. And so Eudaimonea is a very important concept to Aristotle because it does deal with these notions of human flourishing, of people becoming even better than they were the day before, of working on these things to become even better, of working on these things to be able to contribute to society and to be able to be a good person. And I do think that happiness runs very parallel to these notions of Eudaimonea. If we think about happiness as just having a lot of money, or having a lot of sex, or having a lot of power, which is some of what Plato talks about in the Republic as an example, then there are these things that we are missing out on because we're not realizing how deep life goes. That to be ethical is to cultivate these things with yourself, to become stronger and stronger in your cultivation and culturedness and being able to contribute in that way. Now, I will admit I struggled a little bit with the Nicomachean ethics. I think that Aristotle has a lot of difficult notions regarding ethics because it is kind of highfalutin as an example, but I definitely find a lot of value in his ideas, and I especially like the idea that we can pursue life in such a way as to bring about a better world. I think that that's very inspiring and gives me a lot of hope. I hope that you enjoyed this discussion. Be sure to check out the other playlists in my Philosopher series. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed making this video today. Thank you for stopping by, and I will see you next time.